Hello, Think Natalia community. Today, I want to introduce you to another phenomenal and super interesting human being. A human being called David. David comes from beautiful Malta, and David has quite a LinkedIn story behind him. We met a few months ago, and I would love to take you on a journey of growth, of his development over the next 20 minutes or so. So, David, thank you so much for gifting us with your time today.
Hello, Natalia. Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for your time as well. It's a pleasure indeed to be with you today.
Wonderful. For everybody who sees your face for the first time, what do you do? And to which kind of bubble or box can I put you in?
I am a quite strange being, you know. I've started initially looking at accounting as a profession, but I ditched that path because I realized it's not really my line of business, but I'm more of the creative type and more of the person who comes up with innovative thinking. So I embarked on a journey basically to change my profession into business management, strategy, technology, and innovation.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And do you work in Europe? Do you work globally? Do you focus on a specific niche or industry?
I work practically mainly in Europe and in the Middle East. I've built up my own business in digital transformation. I've originally started from business transformation, but as technology has become more pervasive across society, I've decided to specialize a bit more on the technology side and focus more on emerging technologies such as Internet of Things, like DLT, artificial intelligence, machine learning, so on and so forth. I find that there is a big need for people to embrace technology. People appreciate the need of technology, but unfortunately, what I find in my line of business is that they think that technologies are going to solve all their problems. Technology is a good tool, but as other tools, you can use it well and you can use it in a bad way. So my job is to help organizations to make themselves a better version by implementing technology in the right way. And typically, I try to help them to embrace three main elements. It is the business, which is the central element, the people dimension, which is fundamentally important, and the technology, which means that technology is only one side of the coin. They need to look at other areas. And where I find that people fail in technologies, mainly in the business and the people dimensions. And I focus a lot on those areas.
Fantastic. So what are, let's say, three typical problems that you see companies have over and over again? Of course, when we work with different clients in different industries and with different sizes, there's sometimes this needed, and this needed, and this needed. But when you look from a meta perspective, I'm sure that there are 1, 2, 3 challenges or the same problem that pops up over and over again. I want to understand that for the case that individuals are not still 100% sure what it is that you do.
It's a very interesting question, Natalia. And from my perspective, what I find unusual that happens is that people lack a cohesive strategy to implement technology, and they don't know exactly what they want out of it.
Okay.
So they just invest in a system because they think it's going to improve their performance, but there is no holistic strategy. So what they end up is with a problem in their hands. They have disjointed systems. They have problems using them. They use exceptions more than the rules. And I see people actually being disillusioned by the technology, which then becomes harder to go to actually convince them in implementing it in a right way. I've got quite a number of cases of clients who turned to me who were disillusioned with technology service providers, and they came to me basically to help them to turn around the operation. And you end up facing people with very skeptical attitudes towards the technology. So you actually start from a very hard place in order to convince people that is the right way to go. Another area is sometimes people tend to focus on cost, which is good. I'm not saying that cost is not important, but the issue with cost is that when you focus on cost, there are diminishing returns to scale. So you start by focusing on cost. Initially, you get good returns, but as you become very efficient, then eventually the returns on investment in technology becomes very limited. So what I advise to clients typically is that although you might start from cost, the ultimate benefit of technology is to leverage performance from a customer point of view and coming up with growth opportunities and revenues, because there the returns are exponential as opposed to diminishing. So I strongly advise clients to focus on that part as opposed more to cost.
Nice. I don't know about you, dear listener, who is currently watching this or listening to this, but for me, now I grasp it. Now I really, really deeply understand. Well, P.S. I knew it before because we worked together for such a long time, but I made it easier for those who like still don't get it. So that's fine. Okay.
Yes.
So what else? Let's start from the very beginning. Why did you approach me, or why did you approach us as Think Natalia? What was the challenge? Because you have such a massive bubble, or should I say library of experience and knowledge. And nevertheless, you approached us and said, Natalia, help me a little bit with my LinkedIn marketing and social selling.
Yes, I must say my major weakness has always been possibly communication, in terms of communicating and conveying my message, in terms of I believe I am competent in what I'm doing, and I am firmly believer that what I do is right. But sometimes I might lack the necessary skills and aptitude to convince people that what I say is actually important and meaningful. So I always struggled when it comes to marketing and business development, and they were my Achilles heel, so to speak. So, and I initially read a number of books on inbound marketing. It struck me a lot, and I thought that inbound marketing resonates perfectly with me because I am a firm believer that it is not a push approach, but it has to be more of a pull approach in getting the clients. I remember when I studied marketing, the first thing I've learned was that marketing is about making selling superfluous, and that is indeed an analogy that I use. And clearly, I needed some tools to help me understand better how to make use of social media, with particular emphasis on LinkedIn. It struck me some snippets that you gave on LinkedIn that Facebook is a mature platform which is more appropriate for social interactions, but there is a lot of potential on LinkedIn. And I thought, yes, LinkedIn is a good platform for me, and I need to become more professional in making use of it and reaching out to people to be in a better position to advance my perspective.
Mm-hmm. Thanks so much for openly talking about it. Do you still remember your first milestone or your first big aha moment on LinkedIn thinking, whoa, now I got it, or, ooh, this really works?
Yes, what struck me is that I used to write in a particular way on LinkedIn. I wasn't very active. And through your tips, I made my message more succinct, more perhaps user-friendly. And I started getting immediately good responses, not immediately getting jobs, but getting feedback from clients asking me about this concept and this concept, can you elaborate further? So it really left an impact, I think that the brand reputation through the use of LinkedIn has improved tremendously. Even, my social selling index has increased dramatically as well on LinkedIn. So I think that is quite important. The fact that people are asking me for connections, more people asking me for connections. So I was becoming more visible on LinkedIn, and that was a good sign to encourage me to become even more active in the process.
Wonderful. Do you still remember the emotional process that you went through, the ups and downs, if there were any, before posting or publishing your first video? Is there a funny or an interesting story worth sharing around that you're willing to share? Because publishing the first video is a massive milestone for a lot of people. It's a huge source of fear. It was for me as well 7 years ago. I just hated the thought. So tell us your story around your first video, please.
I always feel awkward speaking in front of a camera. And I must say, speaking in front of a computer without anyone in front of you feels very, very, very awkward. And I remember my first video sounded very robotic in this manner. So, and I really sounded robotic, you know. And when my wife looked at my video, she said, "My God, how are you speaking in this video?" You know, it was really, really, really bad. but at least slowly, I'm not a perfect speaker, but I've improved dramatically in my approach when I speak on video.
Absolutely, yeah. And as you also mentioned earlier, I think your content beautifully changed from being very, how can I say that? Very long and scientific and understandable for people on your level, which is fantastic,
yes.
Which is great. And I had the feeling that you might leave a lot of potential clients just on your road to success. And that's why we broke down your content into more digestible bites that maybe weren't as sophisticated that they would have been published in a scientific magazine related to this matter, but more and more people connected, they understood it. And I think also recently I saw a post in which you talked about your family. So tell us about the impressions or thought process that you went through from writing something highly techy, some people might say geeky, very, very scientific, high-level education into, I'm actually going to share a post about my family and me, and maybe writing a little bit more from my heart or from my soul instead of writing from the mind, or maybe finding a beautiful balance, because I do believe a lot of people don't see a difference, don't understand the difference, or are just so scared and say, oh, that's unprofessional and whatever, have a fear around the consequences. So if you could guide us through your thoughts and your lessons learned, I believe that that could help a lot of individuals watching this video.
Yes, this is a very important point, Natalya, and perhaps if there was anything which is fundamental that I've learned throughout this process is precisely on this point, that people work with you not just because you are competent at what you do, but because they like you, they trust you, and they are putting their business in your hands. So it is not just about showing this picture of perfection, of being you are the perfect person in the whole world, you don't do any mistakes, you are, unique. Yes, fine. Those are good things that you are the best in what you do. But at the end of the day, people need to like you and need to assimilate with you when they are doing business with you. And they have to realize that you are also a human being. You make mistakes, you are vulnerable, you've been through difficult periods in your time. So by showing this, I think there is an element of empathy and understanding between what you do and the same case of clients. It's not easy, I must say, to share personal experiences, especially if you are still running into them at this point. But I think they show who is your true self when you are actually doing this work. And by showing a genuinity and honesty in what you say, to people, I think they relate more to you. And in fact, the posts that are more personal frequently get more response, and that's my experience as well. You don't you don't need to exaggerate, because if you exaggerate, then it becomes like attention seeking. But with a few posts here and there on some points, not just on your personal relationship and on your personal experience, but also even from an emotional and even opinions on other things, not just on what you do, show that your life is not just about work, but you are a holistic person that can embrace many different concepts. Because at the end of the day, even in education, it is not just what you do as a profession, but you need to have different interests because even in your work, those interests make your work better. That is what I believe.
Absolutely. I'm tearing up here because I'm so happy that this message that I so desperately want to teach my friends and my clients landed, and you've put it in your own words. I'm like, how awesome is that? Oh, thank you for sharing that. That really makes me happy. You've also decided to work with a performance mentor along the journey. And I do believe that you went also very deep into corners that might be, for some people, social taboos, or might think, nah, that's okay. That's like, nah, let it be. If you want to tell us a little bit more about maybe what was your core insight or the biggest growth that you have experienced when working with an executive and performance mentor or coach. I think it's kind of the same.
Yes. I think one of the biggest messages I got is that I tend to be an overthinker. I think everything from the beginning to end. I see all the worst case scenarios and I always think about worst case scenarios. So I end up worrying, not actually concentrating sometimes, and it really affects my health. And what was great about having a performance coach, initially I thought it was about work. But it's not, there is much more than work. It is getting a balance in your life. It is getting a balance between your work, your social life, your religious, not necessarily believing in a God or anything, but it's about your ethical stance, your social values. It is a whole package of things which need to be in balance together. And if one of those elements is not in balance, then you are not performing well, not just in your social life, but also in your work life. And that was really a great experience. I've navigated through many corners of my mind, and I've challenged myself in different areas. It wasn't easy for me. Letting go certain things, being less perfectionist, perhaps, in what I do. And also learning in accepting myself and my weaknesses, and trying to make the best use of my strengths in the right way.
Wow, this is powerful. I hear wisdom speaking out of you. So once again, thank you so much for sharing, because I believe a lot of people need to hear that. And unless we forgive ourselves, or we find a, let's say, kinder relationship to ourselves and learn to use this as a tool instead of being a slave of it. I used to be one of these people as well, continuously beating myself. No, let me start that sentence again. I used to be a massive thinker as well. I mean, Think Natalia, right? This is how it started. And now I'm on the journey of getting more into be Natalya or feel Natalya. And I think it will end up in Natalya. So yeah, thanks for sharing. That's beautiful. Let's shift gears one more time towards lead generation. You have noted a little bit, or mentioned earlier in our conversation, that yes, people are approaching you on LinkedIn, not only because they want to know further things in relationship to an article that you've written or a video that you've posted, but also potential leads or clients that want to work with you. So tell us a little bit more about what you've learned about the topic of lead generation on LinkedIn, and if you maybe even got a few interesting leads or clients out of this whole process.
Yes, I think the most important message I've learned is that you need to get to know someone before you actually invest a lot in that relationship. It's like marriage, basically. You have to go out with someone for some time before you propose. So it doesn't make sense to propose on the first date. So it's
I agree. Unless you're cuckoo.
Yes. So in business, it's the same thing. You know, it doesn't make sense to approach a client. Listen, do you want to engage with me for a project of €500,000? No, it doesn't work like that. No one will give you that money. So it is about a process of building the relationship in small steps. So approaching initially clients, they get to know you with the content that you post on LinkedIn. Approaching them through either Sales Navigator or through the messaging system that you taught us how to do initially in small baby steps. And eventually, once you strike that relationship with people, you offer them basic services which are not that expensive, and eventually move up the value ladder in order to increasing their value and obviously increasing your value as you go along. So it is not about a transaction, it is about the relationship. I think I emphasize this a lot, and there are no quick wins and no quick gains. It is getting to know people, building trust over time, especially people like me who are into the service industry and in the consulting industry and mentoring industries. They are very personal services which take time to build trust. People are putting something which is very confidential in your hands. So you need to prove yourself first before you actually can develop that commercial relationship with people.
I fully agree. Okay, what about the Think Natalia Tribe? Did you benefit from it in any way through conversations, through network and introduction, interviews, insights, friendships, whatever? Did you benefit from it in any kind of way?
Yes, I linked up with quite a few of the tribe, and I do exchange messages and share experiences between us. So it's a good way. And I was surprised by the fact that initially I thought perhaps one-to-one coaching would be better, but in a group, you learn from each other and you realize that people have the same problems that you have. And everyone starts sharing his experiences and you learn from each other, and you identify areas of complementarity where you can offer complementing services to clients. So for example, you can find people who are in Asia and who offer a type of service which is complementary to you, and you find that you want to penetrate the Asian market, and you can basically collaborate with this person to undertake joint initiatives.
No, wonderful. Super happy to hear that. All right, David, is there anything else that is important to you, worth mentioning that we didn't address or talk about? And if not, who should connect with you on LinkedIn?
Okay, first of all, I would like to really thank you, Natalya, because I really learned a lot from this program. I think what is unique about you is that you don't teach LinkedIn, you teach a philosophy of how to build relationships. And I think that is the most fundamental element. And if I were to give you advice, don't sell it as a LinkedIn, but as building relationships using LinkedIn as a tool.
I like that. Let me change it in my marketing communication. Thank you, David.
Sorry, but I'm a consultant by profession and I can't.
I just wanted to say, that's awesome. Love it. Thanks.
Great. And in terms of moving forward, obviously, as I said, I focus mainly on digital transformation. I help organizations to make a better version of themselves. My motto is making organizations from good to great. So making that leap in becoming unique organizations. And I do that not by providing standardized solutions like many other companies provide, a standardized package solution, but I customize my advice to the specific requirements of clients through the provision of expert advice, but also hands-on work. So I don't just provide the advice, but I help companies to implement what I advise them.
Yeah, that makes a big difference, because we know so many consultancies that say,
yes.
Hey, this is the data, good luck, I'm gone. No, that's not what you do. You are there throughout the whole process. Is LinkedIn also the best platform to reach out to you, or should people visit you via website or any other tool? What's the best way to contact you?
LinkedIn is a great platform, but I also have my website, which is www.beatconsult.io.
Perfect. I'll type it into the comments of this interview, and I think we're done. So once again, thank you so much. It was a pleasure. It was a lot of fun, and I'm so happy to see how you have grown and evolved through this whole journey, how courageous you were, and how you've changed from the David that I met a few months ago to the David that you are right now. And it's just the beginning of the whole thing. So keep up the phenomenal work. And I look forward to meeting you in person in the very, very near future. And until then, we definitely keep in touch.
Thank you very much, Natalya. Much appreciated.
Oh, you're most welcome. And for everybody who watched this today and says, I want to know more about building relationships on LinkedIn. Oh, that sounds interesting. Tell me more. Simply go to coachingwithnatalia.com. You'll find everything that you need there. If you say that's interesting, simply click on the Apply Now button and let's have a beautiful short conversation to figure out if we're on the same wavelength, if it fits, and then we take it from there. So once again, coachingwithnatalia.com, and I talk to you very, very soon.